Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to do a Romaniacs review, and if you recall, the Romaniacs was a series of rum reviews from rums that are no longer in production. The most recent one that I did, or the one most recent in time in terms of its loss of production, was I think in 2002. This one is from 2015, and it's from the United States, South Carolina to be exact, and it's called the Marauda rum. It is a blend, and I'm going to go straight into tasting notes and some production notes right away because I have a fairly long commentary that I want to address at the end of it. It is a blend of column still Guyanese, a column still Trinidadian, and a pot still Jamaican. No further details. Each one of them is 3 years old, proportions not known, issued at 40%. That's pretty much all we get from this thing. Now, it does come from the United States, and the real question for me is, where was it actually blended? Because I do have a source that I think it was Distiller Magazine, online magazine, that said that Shear put it together, but the original website, Marauda.com, which is now dark, said that they did it all in South Carolina. So it was like, I don't know which one it is, right? It's called the Steelpan, which is another thing I want to address at some point, which is kind of neat. It's very, poetic in its own way, and it does have that identifiability. The bottle is nice, the cork is nice, and the taste isn't all that bad either. Now, I'm going to nose it first, even though I've just tasted it. You can, with some practice and some effort, you can actually get the individual components reasonably well. There's a tiny bit of funk, there's some florals, pineapple, citrus. You do manage to check out some sawdust here and there, a little bit of ashy notes and some mineralness, a bit of iodine, salt. That's not bad. Nosing it is really not a bad experience at all. It's just too thin and it's just too light, and that's part of the problem with 40%, as I've said before. Tasting it, again, you're getting more of the same. It has that briny olivey note, which I like. The pineapples and the sharper fruits tend to take a bit more front and center, but they are kind of like put away by the floral notes that also come in after a while. And overall, together with the leather and the smoke, the vanilla, the caramel, the toffee, and so on, that usually attend any kind of barrel-aged offerings, it comes up to really nice. The finish is like just gone so fast that you hardly notice it's there, so I can't really comment on that. And I am going to score this thing at 83 points because it really is a decent little, gold rum. Let's just call it what it is. It's a gold rum, like an añejo or something. Young, entry level, good for mixing. You can take a sip of it and you won't actually be hurt by it. So that's the evaluation, and if that's all you came for, we can stop here. The thing is, the whole business about this company raises rather more questions than it answers. First of all, they have claimed to use a technology called TerraPure, which is supposed to be using ultrasonic energy and oxygenation to remove undesirable congeners and to enhance the flavor profile, as well as, and this is a very important point, to simulate superfast aging. Now, for those of you who remember Lost Spirits out of California, they tried exactly the same thing. The difference between Lost Spirits and this company, Marauda, is that Lost Spirits at least tried to put a number of different rums out the door to show how this thing worked. And, it was up to us as drinkers and reviewers and consumers to taste it against profiles that we knew and liked to see how they ranked up and how it compared. Short answer was it really didn't, at least not appreciably so, and not to the extent that they claimed. It's exactly the same thing with here, except that here they issued this thing in 2015. It won a shitload of awards. Bahama Bob Leonard did a review of it twice, 2015 and 2016. The Rum Howler, Chip Dykstra up in Edmonton, he had done a review on it, and he has a bit of a blurb that seems to be a press release on the TerraPure technology and what it does and what it's supposed to do. And I think he rated it 80 points out of 100, which is actually not a bad score for him, right? I'm kind of like thinking that with the experience that I've gained in the last 2 years, that it really isn't that bad a rum at all. Over and beyond that, there's actually very little information about the company itself. Now, it was founded by a gentleman called Robert Elliott, and he admitted in a Rum Lab 2017 interview that he was a bit of a neophyte at this whole thing. So he put together the blend, maybe with Shear, maybe by himself. I'm really not sure about all of this because the information is all contradictory. Even his own website doesn't mention anything about it, and that website, by the way, is dead. So certainly, I think the technology was the selling point here, and this is what he was trying to make a case for. Although with just one rum, I'm not really sure what kind of a statement you're making. The other thing is there are certain aspects of the label that give me some pause. Now, you could call me pedantic, and I have been, and you can call me niggly and snarky, and I have been. So, yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. You're absolutely within your rights to say so. I don't like the name Steelpan. Steelpan is a Trinidadian instrument made out of steel pans. I used to play one in high school in my youth in Guyana. It's spread all over the West Indies, and it is known as a West Indian instrument. And it seemed to me, even for 2015, before the Black Lives Matter movement, it seems a bit of casual appropriation that doesn't really sit well with me in 2025. If you recall, Michael B. Jordan tried to create a rum called the Juve rum, which was, and he trademarked the name as far as I recall, and he got his ass handed to him because it was seen as just so casual, you know, like take a piece of of Trini and Caribbean heritage and you just kind of like appropriate it for yourself for the name of what you do. I'm not sure I sit well with that at all, but that was 2015 and it was a long time ago and the world has moved on since then. So perhaps, you know, this is all a flash in the pan. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there's actually very little information about the technology and what it does and how it does it. Now, of course, it is trademarked and registered and patented and Christ knows what the fuck else. But there is no evidence whatsoever that it does what it claims it does. None. And I'm talking as a guy who has tasted more rums than I care to count, all right? And still say, sober to tell the tale. The thing is, when you start to see a whole bunch of completely unverifiable claims, when you start to see a whole bunch of stuff that says, you know, it does this, it does that, it does this, and then you kind of like, you know, they kind of hype it up with this incredible hyperbole, that's usually a sign that, you know, yeah, no, it really doesn't do that. And it doesn't. And it doesn't. There are ways of enhancing aging, if you want to put it that way, or the profile, you know, making smaller barrels, putting wood chips in to kind of like increase the surface area and so on. But the technology so far is a pipe dream. It is a holy grail of many innovators and people who like spirits to see if they can do that, probably with whiskey. But it's never been proven indisputably to work. And here it absolutely doesn't. A couple of other small things on the label that I wanted to mention. It says to drink it straight. I suppose you could. It's a bit thin, but you can do that. It's 40% up spirits, which is a naval tradition, or you know, it's a Navy toast, or the British Royal Navy. So I don't know what it's doing on an American rum made from British colonies, but we can pass on that. Over and beyond that, I wanted to mention that the company clearly doesn't exist anymore. They started this thing in 2015, as I said, but by 2018, all the social media accounts stopped posting anything. So that's Facebook, that's Instagram, wherever else you can find it. Nothing was ever heard about it again. And the website, as I said, no longer exists. In point of fact, when I started researching the rum, they directed me not to Marauda.com, but to, which one was it? Terrapure.com and so on. So that technology seems to be still running around the place making waves. I have no idea what anybody's doing with it because I haven't seen anybody advertise it, but the United States is a huge market, so maybe there's a niche product out there somewhere that talks about it. I couldn't be bothered to find out anymore because as far as I'm concerned, this thing here just doesn't do the job. And if some other company is going to use it, they're probably going to advertise it just the way this one did, and maybe not, they'll make sales off of it. That's pretty much all I got on this one. I know it's a bit long, and but there is a lot to unpack here. The written review has the photographs and everything else I've got on the subject of this particular rum. So I hope you find it interesting, and there will be other Romaniac rums to come in the future. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.